Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave. I'm Renee Baribeau.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave.
Are you going to tell us about the topic?
Absolutely. So, Renee and I have been talking. We're getting a nice wealth of topics coming in, and as usual, we've been saying that not every topic is appropriate for the Shaman's Cave. So, it's not that we're ignoring topics that some of you were sending in. Some of them are, it's just not something Renee and I are talking about. It's not something that is in our repertoire of what the Shaman's Cave is about. And so, but we have a great topic today that I think a lot of you will relate to. I know I can, and I know Renee can, and it has to do with getting spiritual downloads. And when I first learned journeying and when I started teaching journeying, I learned it as a real discipline. You never, ever, ever journey unless you have an intention to do so. You don't flip into a journey. You don't start downloading your spirits. Yes, you will get intuitive information coming in, but when you want to talk to your spirits, make it into a sacred act. Get your drum, get your rattle, do your preparation work, call in the helping spirits, do your protection, do your journey. And so, what started happening for me is I started finding over time, uh, let's say 20 years after I started journeying in this way, keeping to the discipline. But about 20 years later, I started finding that as I would take walks in nature, I was getting downloads and I was getting full information, and I would come home and I would write it down, and it was just like writing down a really beautiful journey. And I started talking about it publicly, and just about all my students started saying the same thing was happening to them.
Hmm.
So there is an evolution of consciousness happening with shamanism. You could see it with vision quests. It used to be that you really needed to do a vision quest to be able to download information. And now, people, without fasting and without sitting in the sun, the downloads are just coming. And so we are more sensitive, we are more intuitive beings now. Our intuition is waking up for some of us who aren't in the dense collective, and we are getting downloads. So I'll let Renee chime in here, and I have more to say, of course. But what do you think about downloads, Renee?
you know, I don't know if I even call them downloads. I think for me that I've really become comfortable in the last year or two using the word direct revelation. And really that's what, shamanism is all about is having direct revelations. And I think when we talk about the word download, to me, it feels like that there's still some separation between me and the information or, the cosmic mind where all of this, this cosmic soup is stored. So for years when people would say, spirit told me this and spirit told me that, it would be like, okay, well, have you done your personal work and what eyes are you looking at it through? Like, how are your glasses foggy or are they clear? Because I think that for me is really the real telltale is like if you get information, is it is it coming through your own projection of your information? Or, like the other night, for example, I dreamt of 100 white cars. There was just hundreds of them. And like, how could I interpret the cars like moving around? Would I interpret the white? Would I interpret, where I was right before the car? And so I think that's where that we're all clearly getting the information, but then it's like, how do we process it through our processor, which is our brain, and make it useful or not useful out into the world?
Yeah, for me, I started folders of inspirations. I call them, instead of downloads, I call them inspirations. And when a really, really big one comes, I write them down in a folder. I used to jump on Facebook and write down my inspirations right away, and people would say, more, 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 we love them. And then I just couldn't keep up with Facebook anymore. I just, it took over my life, and I wanted to spend time in nature getting more inspirations. And so I write them down, and I use them in my newsletter, and I use them in my teaching. But one of the things about how I work with direct revelation, and something that I really tried to get people to open up to understanding what psychic senses are their strongest. And for me, auditory is my most psychic sense. And the spirits know that. I've shared this before. I didn't talk till 4. I have a very limited vocabulary. I don't understand poetry. I don't understand metaphors. And so my spirits know this. And so they just speak to me and make it literal. There's no metaphor in my journeys. Everything is very, very literal, unless I'm working with a client, and then my client and I really work to look at what was the power of that metaphor. My power animal, who always gives me something so literal, gave me this gigantic metaphor. Let's unpack this together. And we have fun doing that. So I find that it's really augmented my teaching. When I was teaching guided ceremonies through my Shift Network classes, I was getting the inspirations from the spirits of the Arroyo, and I would come home. I hadn't led guided ceremonies before. It was new for me. So I would come home and I'd write out the whole script and try to really get it before my class, because the spirits were really clear. You do this first, this first, this first. And now, the ceremonies just come to me. I don't write them down. They come to me at the moment. I don't even plan them beforehand. All the things that we've done on the Shaman's Cave come to me spontaneously. And so it's a wonderful, it's brings more meaning into my life to have these kinds of inspirations, instead of what we're hearing about on the news and conspiracy theories and getting lost in all the drama and everything. But the shadow side of getting downloads is you can lose your grounding, and you can lose your ability to know the difference between ordinary reality and non-ordinary reality. And for me, that's where the caution comes in.
That's interesting. In the Wind Clan, we call them windspirations because they come on the wind, which, one of my biggest downloads in my life was Winds of Spirit. And I talk a lot too about how you sense information, because I'm a knower. And when I hear something, it's like the last big thing I heard, I remember specifically, was that you better spend time with Anka. She's not going to be here any much longer. And I thought to myself, like, well, of course she's not. She's in her 80s. But, when I hear it, I tend to now listen. So that day I called up Anka. I said, hey, I'm in town. Let's go to lunch. So I took her to lunch, and we ran all of her errands. And within a month, she was gone. And so for me, when I get a message it's so I've learned to make a hierarchy about how the messages are received. The ones that are the most murky for me are the dream states, because I have to make sure. Sometimes I like who was that, my dream, or was somebody coming to visit me? Like last month I wrote a friend of mine, hey, were you out visiting people last night? Oh yes, and she loves she loves to go out when in her dream state, and I'm not like, so I have to remember sometimes if I really want an uninterrupted sleep that I have to put, the do not disturb sign around the bed, because that's probably a place where people can get in and really disrupt my day is if I have a perturbing dream.
Hmm. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that everybody's understanding that dreams are part of direct revelation. They are part of shamanism. Dreams are not typically, we do get downloads in dreams, we do get inspirations in dreams, but Renee is talking about something different at this
Mm-hmm.
point, where she's talking about people traveling into your dreams, which is
Mm-hmm.
a different topic than downloads. And that does happen, and it is important to put your protection around you when you sleep at night, because we live in a dissociated culture, and people are flying around all over the place. So at night, and so take care of yourself and do some little ritual before you go to sleep at night. I use Siberian mirrors. I've used them for, God, as long as I can remember. I have them under my bed. And, you just have to journey and find your ways of keeping your nighttime space clear. And I think the point that Renee was trying to bring up is with downloads that the danger, like with dreams, is that you can be misinterpreting what's coming from ego and what's coming from spirit. So I think, Renee, that was kind of where you were trying to
Yeah,
go.
because I think the question the person asked was like, how do I know if the download's for me or if the download was just, something that I should put up a fence around? And usually and I think you and I were both touching on it, that I have my own level of what are my most best way of interpreting, like what ways do I receive information? Like for me, I was a chef, so smell is a big one. Like if I walk into a room, I can smell death. And the hearing for me is like grand importance when usually when I get a message that I hear, it's like, stop what you're doing, attend to this now. The knowing is the trickier one for me, because I just get these knowings all the time. You kept an inspiration journal. I had a friend who used to say, well, write that down on a white card. And I had a note box with my white cards with my predictions on it. And because there's levels of, not only do you have a primary one, but there's the other ones and the secondaries and the tertiary ones that help you refine and understand how you get information best. And I'm like with Sandra, is like where I could plan where a journey's going into my teaching. And I could think that I know where we're going on a journey. And then as soon as I pick up the drum, pick up the rattle with the group, it never fails. We go somewhere where spirit wants us to go. And all my best planning is, tossed out on the patio, and, we're off to the races somewhere different. And I trust that, because
Right.
I understand what I hear, what I feel, what I see, what I know. And that's come with a lot of deep house cleaning.
Yeah, my knowing, I trust 1000%. 1000%. I never even question it. When I get a knowing, that I was trying to explain in my my class the other night to people that I believe, this is just my belief, people could say what they want. I believe clairsentience is our most evolved sense. I believe the visuals is everybody trying to go back to kindergarten. They want to see the pictures, they want to see the movies, they want the entertainment. That's not direct revelation. Direct revelation is when you really get the information and you're not going for entertainment, but you're going for something big. And so I've been teaching shamanism for 40 years and I've had tens of thousands of students. I mean, just think, for my first 10 years, I taught the beginning workshop on shamanism um, every single weekend. In a year, I was on the road 300 days a year teaching just that workshop when I first started out. So I learned a lot about how people do direct revelation and about senses. And it just became clear to me, it became a knowing to me that clairsentience is our most evolved sense. But all the people who are clairsentient or auditory keep, I can't see, I can't see, I want to see, I want to see. And, I just want to tear my hair out and say, stop trying to see. You might one day, if you keep practicing, all your senses will wake up and come in. But so with the knowing, we have to go back to what Renee is saying. You have to do your personal work to know if your knowing is coming from ego. What's that feeling inside of you when it's a true knowing versus your mental state? And, it took me a long time, but I've been practicing shamanism for 40 years. So my knowings, I know when I'm speaking ego and I know when I'm speaking spirit. I have a different vocabulary. And so it's obvious to me the difference.
Yes, I totally agree. And my knowing, the one trick about my knowing is might be a trip up for you guys as well, is that it often goes against the mainstream. Like when world events happen and things happen, it's like I get this sense like, oh, boom. And I'm not even going to go into any of them. And they're like, well, where did that come from? And because I really believe that, the people who are here doing this light work at this point, and a lot of you who are listening, some of you are really new, but some of you have been at this 30, 40 years. And we've been ushering in this new time period, this new, I don't know that we all knew what the dissolution of this nature was going to look like, but I believe that we've been preparing the way for a very long time. So sometimes what the information that I get is very contrary to what I might read in the newspaper or what I might see on television. And how I know that it's a true knowing for me is I don't have to tell anyone. I don't have to defend it. I don't have to write blogs about it. It's just, I know it. And that's enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do like sharing my downloads when I have the opportunity, especially when they're good ones. They're not all good ones. You should see the post-its I have. I probably have 200 post-its on my desk with different inspirational phrases to get me through the day. But that all came through downloads. But my knowings, I don't share.
Right.
My knowings are my knowings, and it helps me navigate. It's my compass. My knowings are move left, move right, stay still, cancel, go. And I don't share those with anybody. That's just, it's just how I live. It's my compass. And you don't share your compass with everybody. You're using it as a personal tool for you. Um, but my concern, which I was bringing up again, is that the one thing I have seen about the shamanic community is, again, I'm sorry to repeat myself, is that a lot of people who are drawn to spiritual work were abused and their body's not safe. And Renee and I have done shows on this already. And so oftentimes people choose a spiritual path that they think is more an out of body experience. Shamans take their bodies with them, they don't leave their bodies behind.
Mm.
But in the Western culture, a lot of people believe that shamanism is an out of body experience, and a lot of people who have been through trauma are highly, highly psychic. And so you journey very easily, you download very easily, but you don't know how to come back into your body easily. And unfortunately, you picked planet Earth to incarnate into. My husband always says, the next time somebody asks you if you want to come back, just say no. but we do. So you have to make sure that you're grounded when you're getting downloads. Otherwise, you're walking down the street like somebody who looks like maybe they need some mental health. You're starting to talk to people. You're starting to do your downloads out loud. Your friends start looking at you weird, and then we start getting topics about something's going wrong with my downloads, and this person did not say that, so don't take that personally, but I see it all the time. It was just like when channeling became big in the 1980s. Channeling became huge in the 1980s. And what happened is everybody was channeling murderers, pirates, because they weren't taught who are you talking to? And there's all these middle world spirits moving around. So all these people thought that they were channeling high beings, and they were channeling stuck middle world spirits who needed to be psychopumped. So we need to, in a spiritual practice, and that's why in the beginning of your practice, having a disciplined journey practice might be good just to help you with the discipline. And then when you get the discipline of knowing how to take your body with you on a journey, how to come back, and how to ground, then you're in a position to be able to safely have downloads coming through and not be in danger of losing your mental health, which you can only imagine what I've seen over 40 years.
Well, I think that's enough on this subject. Now that we will end on that. Is like really being grounded is so important. I suggest taking a wind walk, where you go to the door, you say, hey, I'm ready for a download, or I have a question I need answered. Wait until the wind kisses you on your cheek, and then take a walk. And, and then see how you do receive the information from there, and, start to practice with that. On a finer note, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel. Go over to shamanstv.com and follow us on our Facebook group. We have 27,000 people there, and we would love to see some more conversation, maybe about how you receive downloads, how you receive your information, and some of the insights you're getting.
I am answering questions that are true shamanic questions on the Shamans Cave Facebook page. And those are the only posts that I am responding to at this particular time. So if you have a question about shamanism, put it on the Shamans Cave Facebook page, and I will be happy to try and answer it for you. So remember to like our show, and we love you and send you many blessings.